Well, hello, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you are in the world, and whatever time you're watching this, hopefully it's live. But if not, if you're catching this on a replay, hello. And we're on our penultimate webinar for the winter webinar series. That means there's one more for those that are not understanding what penultimate is, because I know some of you, English is not your first language. We have already got a bunch of people saying hi, and I'll call them out in a moment. Today's webinar, just to explain what it's about, I'm going to show you a couple of things, probably about three things, depends on how the time goes, that you may not know about. Some of it, you may know about it and go, of course, I knew all about that, but that's what it's all about. But one of the things involves a spaceship. And as you know, I'm a big Star Trek fan and space nut. It is not the space computer. I think I've done that example to death. It's something even cooler than that. Some news about real spaceships and also some other cool things that we're going to do as well. So let's call a few people up, because already I've had a whole bunch of people saying hi. Rick says, hello, Ian. And let me just minimize my chat window so I can see what's going on. I'm ready for another great webinar. Thanks for saying the great. I tried my best. Using Delphi to create apps that are light years ahead of the rest. Correct. I'm showing the simple stuff, but the idea is you build your blocks together and, you know, Rad Studio's got all things you need. Oh, I'm starting to get a Father Christmas beard here. Maybe I need to trim it. What do you have in store for me today? Well, some cool examples. One of them is very, very cool, and the others are kind of, hey, that's really useful. I always know that we get a couple of thousand people registered for these webinars, and so I know the chances are there's a couple hundred people minimum that don't know the things I'm about to show you, and several others that go, oh, I'd forgotten about that. So here you go. Doug has moved to the Campbell River in British Columbia, Canada. Doug, well, I'm really pleased to hear it. I hope it's going well. My daughter and my son-in-law, her husband, moved at the weekend, and we helped them. They've only moved about 4 or 5 miles away from us, but oh boy, I mean, moving has got to be one of the most stressful things you can do, apart from all the other stressful things in life. But yeah, by Sunday evening, because I was helping drive a truck, even though they're both professional, they drive trucks for a living, both of them. Yeah, I felt it a bit. I'm getting old now, and I can feel the weight of boxes and tables and things like that. Even though I was doing the easy bit, they were doing all the. They're younger. They're in their 20s, so they're much fitter than me. So my sympathies to you, Doug, if you are sitting there post move and thinking, oh, what on earth. Jason Chapman, hello, Jason, who runs the UK user group. And by the way, Jason, I haven't invited you yet, but I want to invite you for possibly a chat on Friday. More about that in a moment. You might not be available, but I'll just put you on the spot, seeing as you're live there in the chat. We've got a good bunch of people coming on Friday, and Jason should definitely make it if he can. Who else have we got? Let's have a look. Yeah, so as I said on my comments, there's a few examples of things people may not know about and that's really where we're at. Hello to a fellow Texan, Paul Dardeau in Austin. Technically, Embarcadero is based in Austin, so you're kind of local, but I'm based in Dallas. I'm actually north of Dallas, not actually in Dallas Central, because I don't want to be down there. It's all too busy and lots of tourists and people standing in the road where the book repository was, where JFK was assassinated, and I don't want. It's too much for me. I'm out in the area near Frisco. For those of you that live in Tesco, you probably know a Tesco. Oh, there's a British in me coming out in Texas. Tija, for those of you who know what I mean. Jason says, what did you mean from the last 2 decades? Rick, only my webinars count, and I've not been, I think I might have been doing content for at least 20 years now, but most of it was in person or things like that. But I've been certainly doing webinars for four years, something like that. Sergio, hello from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Oh, lovely place. Was there earlier on in the year. Really great. And as Doug says, hola. Hola, Sergio. Thanks for joining us. so many Brazilian programmers out there, developers that are with us. And as Jason says, well, I was talking about Ian's latest few seasons and other speakers. Yes, which was your favorite? Let me know. And by the way, if there's a topic for the webinars that you want me to cover, email me. You should know my email by now, but it's ian.barker. I'm going to put it up on a caption here. Hold on. Email me at ian.barker@embarcadero.com. People do. More and more people watch the webinars. We're gradually building the audience up, particularly if you're watching on YouTube. If you click on the like and subscribe buttons, we won't know who you are, but you'll get a ping and notification from YouTube, not from us, telling you that we've gone live. The same with LinkedIn. If you're watching on LinkedIn, click on the subscribe button there, because I think there's one on LinkedIn. And there's also, we're on Twitch, we're on X, we're on Meta Live, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, multiple YouTube channels. We go out organically to all sorts of channels. So we get quite a wide audience following us, which is great. And we get a couple of thousand within a couple of days watching from the replays, and that goes up sometimes to about 4,000 or 5,000 after about a month or something like that. But if you've got an idea for a webinar, please email me. We are going to pause after this Friday's webinar, which is our holiday special, and we will have some people there joining me, some special guests. One of them looks a little bit like Santa. He won't mind me saying that. And the other one used to look like Santa, but has shaved his beard now. And a few others as well. So after Friday, we're going to pause for the holiday season in the United States. Obviously, it's Christmas in the UK and most of Europe. It's Christmas is celebrated as well. But it come the new year in January, we'll be doing some more webinars. I've already got a few planned. We're going to look at Interbase to Go, developing database apps on mobile so that you can talk to databases using mobile apps. Some series where I'm going to do a series of webinars that join together to create a final app that you can download and use. We haven't decided what the topic will be for that, but we've got a few. There's a pharmacy app example that we'd like to show that is a full-blown example that does some cool things. So if you've got any ideas for webinars, email me there. And likewise, if there's anything you're not happy with Embarcadero, and I know sometimes there is, we don't always get it right, or there's something you are happy with and you don't want us to change, then email us and let me know. That's my job. My job is literally to be there as developer relations. I'm the developer advocate. My job is to put across the company's point of view and listen to your point of view and pass it back to the people who matter within the company. And I do. I work very closely with all levels of the company, from the general manager, directors, and the product team onwards. And we interface, to use a horrible office speak word, but we regularly have meetings and discuss all sorts of things. And at least once a week, there's a meeting with a bunch of quite important people where we can put across your points of view and things like that. And it does work. I don't want you to think Embarcadero is a black box where you don't know who to communicate with. All of the project managers give out their email address, and it's exactly the same, first name, last name, at embarcadero.com. We want you to understand that we do listen to what you have to say. There was a guy the other day who was upset about something, and I invited him to email me, and he did, and we talked about it, and we actually solved quite a few of his issues. We can't solve all of them because some of them take time and money and effort and things like that, but we are definitely here. Who else we got? Thomas is from Aarhus in Denmark. I'm going to Denmark next year, actually, in April, I think. So that's really good. And the Malvern Flying Wow says hello to Jason. Okay, that sounds great. Malvern, beautiful place, full of water. If you're British, you'll understand what I mean. Rick is giving the excuse that due to his schedule, he doesn't get to attend all of them. Yeah, but I would say the AI stuff was interesting. Yes, I think so too. I think it was very interesting. Tim is in Cedar Park in Texas. Oh, hello, Tim. Another fellow Texan. There's quite a few of us around, I think, that come to these webinars. we're discussing maybe having some meetups next year in Texas as well, maybe Austin or Dallas. We're not sure, or maybe Houston. Oh, it's a bit far for most. Austin and Dallas are more central for most people. Hello from San Carlos in California, and I heard that in California, I think it was yesterday or this morning, there was a tornado. And there was a tornado actually near our offices in California, which are quite remarkable. And a bunch of developers that work for us will go, there's a tornado. For us Texans, we're like, so what? You know, we get these all the time. We're used to it. But that's something that was a bit of a shock in California. It was pretty crazy. And Malik is in Tripoli in Libya. Hello. I remember you come quite often and join us south of the Mediterranean Sea. It's 8 p.m. Sorry about that. We do try and pick a time that works for most people. We find that the noon time and being consistently at noon works for most people. You know, you can always catch the replay. Click on that like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube. It really will help you. Greetings from Norway. Well, how fantastic. Hilsen fra Norge. I'm hoping I'm saying that properly, Knut, but you know, I probably mangled it as I do always. Hello from the Ivory Coast. Wow, that's so many different countries. It's quite astounding, really. The Ivory Coast, wonderful. Doug says it's painful. Okay, we can get some ointment for it or some cream. Benno said yes, he liked the hot dog demo. And the AWS stuff was great. Yeah, not a hot dog. We thought that was funny. Richard and I are kind of nerdy. Richard will probably be joining me on Friday for the holiday special, and we'll show some more stuff. Got a few days to compare. Greetings from Colombia. Wow, there's so many of you joining today and saying hi. Well, I really appreciate it. Hi from another UK dev group member, so Mulvo and Flying One. I'm beginning to think I know who that might be now. And who else have we got? Boyan. Hello, Boyan. Boyan, I when we come back in January, I must talk to you about Arduino because I'm gradually collecting some more IoT things. This one's the Atom Matrix. I'm sure it works with your stuff. Boyan has got Microsoft software. He's got some really great things, Arduino, ESP32s, which is what this has got in the background. And I've also got an e-ink device coming that I'm going to program with Arduino and Delphi. I don't know. I suddenly went blank on the product name, but there you go. Who else? The Ivory Coast, do you know? Monty Boo's Samaka. Do you know the Ivory Coast is quite a big place? I guess there aren't that many. Doug says Plano. Actually, no, I am near Frisco. I did go to Plano quite a lot. I eat there. There's some really good restaurants in Plano. So if you're from the area, you'll understand. Hello from Nantes, Einstein. You have been here consistently, probably every webinar we've done. And I really appreciate it. So merci beaucoup. I really, I do appreciate every country. I can only say some words in some languages, and French is one of them that I can speak a little bit of. I used to look after a French grandmother, so I know some French nursery rhymes like "Oh le bon roi Dagobert avec son grand culotte." So if Einstein remembers these nursery rhymes, I'm sure it will amuse him. Oh, the good King Dagobert with his great big underpants, I think it is, or pantaloons or something like that. Doug says, nice dinner in Plano. Hello from HU. Net Aid Cuff. That's an interesting name. Who else we got? TXML doc at runtime in C++ builder says, what any chance of a quick update about Marco Cantu? Well, I can give you an update. He's currently not very well. He's got a cold. I was in a meeting with him this morning and he sounded like he borrowed somebody else's voice. Because it was talking like this. And I can't do Marco's accent, but Marco Cantu is still the senior PM, product manager, for Rad Studio. He works very closely with David Millington, who you'll see me on presentations with. And I'm in a lot of meetings. I work very closely with Marco. We collaborate daily on things. Same with Nuno and David Millington as well. But Marco, yeah, he's still around. He's just super busy, and I'm doing my thing. So that's why you see a lot of me. It's my job to be on camera and talk and things like that. But he's fine, and he's working very, very hard. He's extremely busy working on the next release of Rad Studio. But like I say, he's a bit sick at the moment. So he literally said at one point he was lying in bed feeling sick and joining in a meeting. That's one of the benefits of being able to do these virtual meetings. He didn't turn the camera on. It was not some weird, oh, you're in your pajamas. No. I imagine Marco would have some very wonderful Italian silk pajamas or something. He's just that kind of super slick guy. For any of you that know him, he's the perfect representation of a kind of svelte Italian guy. I like Marco. I get on very well with him. He'll be laughing at that. He's I'm not like that at all. Good evening from Poland. Dzień dobry to Pavel, who also has been here quite a few times. And actually, sorry, I can't say your username, but how AI stands now. Yes, we're going to do some more AI in the new year. It's something we can't remember. I'm Jemmy from South Africa. Wow, hi there. And Olivier says it's already 7:15 p.m. It's been a long day, and spending the first 20 minutes saying so is a bit rough. Sorry about that, Olivier. Catch us on the replay. Okay, catch us on the replay. That is the way that we do these webinars. I understand it. It's not a problem. I've actually got a lot of people saying hi from Germany. Richard Hatherall's here as well, and Northland. Geez, it can go. Germany. Did my students? Wow. He's new to working with Embarcadero, but he's happy to announce that he did his student's thesis to graduate university with an Embarcadero program. Fantastic. That's really good. And Avidius, who is also in the Ivory Coast, says he remembers always. And Le Roi d'Agobert, Monsieur Culotte. Yes, yeah. Bon Roi d'Agobert is very funny. And also, just to make the point that we are absolutely everywhere, Lima, Peru, and also from India. So we're absolutely everywhere. So what we're going to do today, and I covered everybody says hello. So I apologise to Olivier, who's saying it's not okay saying hello to it. I understand that. I don't always do it that long, but we also do have a lot of people who like the community that we have. Right, so today I'm going to talk about a few things that you may or may not know, and I think the first one is probably something that it depends how long you've been using Delphi, whether you come across it or not, but I personally use it quite a lot, and it's going to involve me sharing my screen, so I'm going to do that in a moment. So whilst I'm sharing my screen, I usually can't see the questions. So if you've got any questions about what I'm doing, if you can ask them, and I'll get back to you shortly. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to choose this one. And you should see my screen. You see me down here on the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about a couple of things. First of all, sometimes you will find, and I'm going to just move that QR code over. Let me just go here for a second. I think I can move it. Yeah, let me move it over there out the way a bit. So a couple of things that you may or may not know, and one of them is actually a bug which we're working on, or it manifests itself. And if I just talk about what that bug is to start off with, if you have your display settings like I do, I have, as you can imagine, two screens. Okay, now this screen here, the number 2 screen, is the one that's right in front of me. Okay, and that's got my camera on pointing down at me, and so you can see me in glorious Technicolor. And I have actually got a stand-up desk, so I can actually raise it up and it can go up and down like some kind of crazy sports camera. But you'll see that my other screen there is a lot smaller. And the reason is that that screen is set to 1920 by 1080. And so it comes up on the webinars and is clearer to see, which is why usually you can see my display resolution and all the stuff I have on the screen quite clearly. And you sometimes say, as a couple did during Richard Hatherall's one, oh, I can't see the text, even though Richard had zoomed his text up. It's a bit blurry. And the reason is that I just do this a lot. So I have a screen pretty much dedicated to streaming. Now, when you run the IDE, you will occasionally, if you use something like remote desktop or something like that, you will occasionally find that you will get problems with what are known as high DPI screens. And if I show you what I mean by that, this should show up. You can probably see there, but you can only see some of my settings for my project options. And the reason for that is just that I actually started the IDE on the Super 3K screen or whatever it is, or 2K, I think that one is. And it's not resized, so you've got some problems with it. The other thing you might get as well is that you sometimes end up with a situation where your IDE gets some scrambled things down here, okay? And this happens very rarely, but usually only happens when people are using virtual machines and then they're using a remote desktop to get into a virtual machine. A lot of Mac users do that. They use Parallels and things like that. And they'll find that this project window, which is this group here, this window here that I'm pointing to now, might go blank. It is something that we're aware of, and I think we've addressed it by now with a patch that might be coming up soon. But it's just one of those things that, you know, the more times we release products, even though we have hundreds of thousands of tests, and I mean that, hundreds of thousands of automated tests, stuff gets through. We're trying to get better at that. Sometimes things get through that we really don't want to have happen, but we try and correct those with patches and updates and things like that. But the idea is more complicated than you would imagine, and sometimes we get it wrong. So if this happens to you, the way to make your screen work properly is if you go right click on your desktop and select display settings, and if you go down to this thing that says scaling down here, change it to say 100%. Now close the IDE first, close Rad Studio first, change the scaling to say 100%. Okay, and that's true of either one of these. This is my 2K screen. Actually, I've got a 3K screen behind me over my shoulder. But the same is true of the 2K screen. I've got it 100%. Now, your web browser is going to look weird because your text is going to be tiny, tiny, tiny. But what will happen is if you are one of the people that experience problems with your IDE and scaling, if you do that, you will find that your IDE doesn't experience these problems. Okay, certainly it appears to fix. MVP guys had this problem, and as soon as you turn the font scaling off, problem went away. Now it will mean that, no, I'm going to pull up my browser now. Let me just go to it. Let's choose. Let's go to Google. Just going to try and pull up a page that is not contentious. So you'll find that your Google browser, your browser starts off looking weird. So if I just do Control-0, it's now at 100%. If you hold your Control key and scroll your mouse wheel, you'll find that your browser zooms up. Okay, so when you do that that font scaling, you turn that font scaling off, your browser window is going to look tiny like that. Okay, if you've got, say, a 2K screen. If you just scale that up, it's probably going to mean that 90% of your other things are okay. You can also scale Microsoft Word, Outlook, all of the other common things that are common apps that you have will work fine. Okay, and you'll find that it will solve most of the problems that you have with the IDE scaling. It's not okay. We are going to do more on this. We're still working on some of the issues that we've had in the past, and we've reduced it down to a lot of edge cases where if you do this and you do this and you have this set up and that happens, then this problem occurs. So it's less common now. But if you are one of those people that's affected by that, do what I said. Turn off the font scaling. In the display settings down there, change it to 100%. Your problems will go away. The other thing that you can do, and I'm not sure if I can pull one up. Yeah, I can't show you easily, but you can go to an application and right-click on the executable. I'll choose this one actually. And if you select Properties, there is a compatibility option, and you can turn off font scaling in there. You see this one here, this button here, change high DPI settings. So if you've got an older version of RAD Studio and you're creating apps that are not great at font scaling, then you can go into the compatibility settings and you can click on here, and then you can change the font scaling and your apps will scale bigger. Otherwise, when you start with on a 3K screen and it's an older app, a previous to say version 11, I think was probably the first one that handled DPI, high DPI. If your app seems really, really tiny, and it's say a Delphi 7 app or something like that, you should upgrade. You should definitely upgrade. But if you can't, go into here and you can change these scaling problems. Okay, and you can literally say override the high DPI scaling, and it will solve a lot of problems for you. And in fact, someone's trying to ping me. Don't mean to rush you, but messages got lost in the other channel. Oh, okay. So my colleague is one of my colleagues is trying to ping me about something else. So that's it. Let me just answer this guy and tell him I am busy. There you go. Just told him to go away. He's no better. Right. So just to recap, go in here, Properties, and then Compatibility. And then you go into here and say, change the high DPI settings. And your older apps, the pre-RAD Studio 11 ones will scale. But that's not going to fix all your problems. You need 11, RAD Studio 11 or 12 to solve, a lot of the other issues that you get. So that's just tip number one about scaling, high DPI, and all the rest of it. Now, your apps themselves with RAD Studio, if you go to the settings page, and I don't know if this is going to work because I've messed up with my settings to go into the broadcast mode. But in here, there is this one. If you go to the project options application manifest, which is a bit of a mouthful, and you select the option that says per monitor V2, you can enable runtime themes, but also the DPI awareness by default on the later versions will do the scaling. You can turn it off if you really want to on your app, which I wouldn't recommend, and then your apps won't scale. But these are just some of the ways of making the scaling work properly. So next thing, what happens if you've got multiple monitors and every time you go to run an application, so if I hit F9 now, you'll see that nothing appears to be happening. And the reason is that my app is over there. But not only that, you saw my IDE go and disappear down like that. And it's actually down here on this monitor and you can't see it. Okay, now by default, RAD Studio will start on your main monitor, the one where your taskbar is. But how do you solve that? How do you make it remember where it is on different versions? This is really applies to, I think 10.4.2 upwards, but certainly 11 and certainly 12. You can go here and say desktops. And there are 3 desktops that you care about. One is the startup desktop. Okay, and that's the one that you get when you first go into the system. So if I just click on close, all like that, this is the startup desktop. And if I always want it to be on my not main monitor, so to speak, I can go into here and say desktops, save desktop, and it knows it's a startup layer. And I can say, yes, I want the startup layer. Do you want to replace it? Yes, I do. And that way, it's always going to open on this left-hand screen here. Now, when I actually open an app like this is a different desktop. So I go into here, view desktops, save desktop. And this is now, which is over here, my default layout. Okay, that's the one where you've got an app open, you've got your project open, and I want to save it here. What will that remember? Well, saving the desktops remembers where your object inspector is, where your structure is, all these things. You'll see that I'm very particular about the way things are arranged. The reason is when I'm showing you code and showing you screens, I'm showing on quite a small resolution, a 1920 by 1080 or a 1080p, and I want to make sure that my palette is where you can see it. I want my object inspector, which is what happens when I go into here. If you don't know that, I'm not sure how often you've used Delphi, but that's object inspector. And then the project window, which is where I hit targets like Windows 32 and all the rest of it. Okay, so those are my desktops. And when I'm running, like so, the other remaining desktop is the debug desktop. And if I go into desktops and select save desktop, and it's my debug layout. So that's the layout where certain windows are open that I want to have, like the messages and call stack and all the rest of it. And I can save that. And that's the third type of window. So there's three windows: startup, default, when you're coding and actually doing stuff, and then debug. Okay, so those are the desktops. Now, I'm going to go into some more things. The really cool demo is after this one that's coming up. This one's pretty good, but the next one after this is the one where you're going to go, oh, that is actually cool. So this demo first is a demonstration of exceptions, but it's going to do something cool and show you how you can make your program crash in a nice way. Okay, so I've created an example exception here, okay, by convention using the Embarcadero coding style, or the official Delphi coding style. Exceptions begin with the letter E, in the same way that classes begin with the letter T. Rick says that's a good trick. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you wait. There's more coming. So let's start by having an exception, okay, and we'll see what happens. So there I've got an exception. If I just run it outside of the IDE for a moment, what happens when I click that code is when I click that button, we see an error message here. I am an example exception. Now, it could be divide by 0, database crashed or whatever, or some other bizarre thing. But in this case, it's just I'm an example exception. So your program is crashed and it's showing an error message. Okay. And you can see here that I've got the caption bar has been set to code is running. So if we just look at that program code for a second, it sets the caption to code is running, and then it raises the exception and off it goes. Now, what happens if I, oops, Ian, I'm stretching myself across 3 screens here. My neck is going like that to see what they're. So here we have another exception type. So raise it, and if it traps that exception, then what it does is it sets the caption of the window to crash. So it starts with code is running, and then if there's an exception, if something crashes, it'll change the caption of the application to say crash. So let's run that. Again, I'm not doing it in the IDE, and there's a good reason for that, which I'll show you in a moment. So you can see the exception window no longer shows. What happens is instead it's been trapped, as you would expect, and it says crash. I'm an example exception. So the program doesn't show that horrible message, crash. It actually just says I'm an example exception, which is exactly the way exceptions are supposed to work. Okay, so now let's try something else. I'm going to go into my program, and I've turned on, or I've installed, a product called Mad Accept. Now, some of you may know this and some of you may not, but if you don't know what it is, I'm going to just build my app again, okay, and run it. Now, my next door neighbor's dog is barking, and maybe my dog's barking about. If I now click on the button, exactly the same thing happens as before. No change in behavior. The exception's been trapped. We're all good. But let's go back into the code and go back to what we did before, which is we're going to go in here and just comment those out. The way I'm commenting that out, by the way, is control and then slash that character there, control slash, and I can comment out a whole block. Gonna link that and compile it. Now when I run it, click on that, and what I get is this. Okay, I get a very cool window that tells me that there's been an exception. It tells me what the exception is. I am an example exception, which is the message you remember before. We showed that message on the screen. But not only that, it also shows the entire call stack of what's happened. And this is from this site that you can see up above me here, from a guy called Mad She. That's what he calls his company name, but it's his name is actually Matthias Rowan. He's German and very, very talented. And there's the stack. Now, what is in this call stack? Well, for those of you that used Delphi before, you would recognize this as the order of things that get called. So this is literally all the source code that was executing when I ran it. So there is my form button one click, which is in this source code here. And I'll pull this source code up so you can see button one click. And it's saying that at line 33. So we just go down. I haven't got all the line numbers turned on, but 30, 31, 32, 33. So it knows it's line 33. So not only does it tell you what function the program crashed in, but it also tells you the line it crashed in and the name of the source code unit. So this is unit1.pas, as you can see down here on the side, of where it crashed. It has got some, and as Haito says there, which is true as well, with JCL debug, I send the error and call stack to the server. Found incredible apps errors with that. Yes, this is a similar thing. It's a bit like a slightly more polished version of JCL debug. It does do similar things, and there is some crossover between the functionality. What this does is allows you to send the bug report. Okay, so I have an email set up, an email address set up for me, and let's say it's called webinar crashes at embarcadero-demos.com or something like that. When the user clicks on send bug report, what it will do is actually take this call stack, okay, and the stack dump, so all of the values, all the register values of the CPU registers, what hardware I'm using, and all the other things like the processors that are running in the background, modules, call stacks, you name it, the model of the computer, the CPU, everything. It passes it up into a nice little report, and it sends the report to my email address, and it does that automatically. Now you can get it to send the email report directly, or you can do it manually. Absolutely fantastic app. Now what I can do from here is I can say, well, continue with the application, and the application continues to run. Okay, so that is from Matthias Ruin. Let me just pull over that website. So if you go to madshi.net, it's the thing in the corner there, the QR code up there, and then you can go to there and you can download it. Now, it's very generous in terms of whether you can use it in applications, you know, for commercial use or the rest of it. The buy, I forget what the price is. It's like, if it's non-commercial, then it's free. number of developers, one per license. If not, if it's commercial, you can have a license. Do you get the source code? Yes, you do. And it's 159 euros. You can subscribe to it. And so that subscription is 49 euros. It's absolutely as cheap as you like. I mean, it's really quite extraordinarily good for what it does. That's all it does, but it does do this nice little dialogue there, and it does show the bug report, and you can send the bug report and all the rest of it. It's fantastic. I love it. And by the way, it will also take a screenshot of the application if you choose to, so that when your application crashes, it will actually take a screenshot of what was happening at the time. So you can see, oh, they've got 500 windows open, and your app, you can go, oh, look, they've clicked on this bit on the screen and it's made that happen. Oh, and they had the logo display and the rest of it. Really, really great. I think it's one of my favorite things to have in the application. So that's Mad Accept. And as Keld says, Eureka Log, which is another version of the logging tool, I'm just showing Mad Accept today, and can also send a screen up along with the crash report. Yes, and Mad Accept can do as well. It also says, I think Eureka Log and Mad Accept are kind of competing in terms of what they do. I am not endorsing either one either way. You pick your ones you like. Eureka Log is very, very popular amongst developers. Mad Accept also popular. I personally use Mad Accept in my own commercial software, and it's saved my skin a few times where, you know, the software that I used to specialize in went to end users, and we didn't know who they were. They were not like a in-company captive audience, if you like, of employees. No, they were specific end users, commercial users, and it could be anything from using an outdated Windows XP machine that they really shouldn't be using to the very latest top of the range, you know, Mac with all sorts of crazy things on it. You know, that's the thing about writing shrink wrap commercial quality software. You don't know, you can't really manage people in terms of what they're supposed to be using. What are the implications of using such tools in Windows Store apps? I actually don't know that, Terry. I know that for the Windows Store, there is a mechanism that actually captures these things for you. I honestly can't tell you whether the Mad Accept and the Windows Store logging interact. When I've done apps in the past that were signed apps and then with the tracking built in and gone to the Microsoft, they've got like I think they call it a reliability center or something like that. You can go there and you can see where your apps have been installed around the world and how many times they've crashed, which is, if you've got like 100,000 users, it's very depressing if you see like 500 people have had it crash on you and you think, oh my word. But actually in the general scheme of things, if you've got thousands of users, 500 is actually pretty good because all sorts of things go wrong with Windows. You know, it's the way it goes. So that's it. So that's Mad Accept. Just to recap on that, really, I love it. Like I say, as someone pointed out, because this is the question earlier that Terry was asking about implications of such tools there. But as Keld pointed out, Eureka Log can do this as well. So, you know, it's... Terry says, I rarely see any stack dumps from Windows Store. I actually don't know, Terry. I'll find out about that because we're looking at deployment in the new year about how you deploy to MSIX for the App Store and also to iOS, and that process. We're actually going to go through it and talk about the various options of Windows Store dashboard and that. So I'll have a look and see. I'm not sure if you can turn it on mandatorily. I think it's optional, and I'm not sure. I need to check that. I honestly don't know this one. It's been a while since I've had to do that, but there you go. Anyway, so that's Mad Accept. So that's fun, and like I say, it's very cool. You can turn off Mad Accept in your app by default just by doing that. What it does when you click on Mad Accept, if I go into here for a second and show the source code, Mad Accept patches up your program and adds in some additional headers in there transparently. And when you go in and you turn it off, and it also changes your compiler settings as well. Don't worry about those too much. It does work, but as soon as you click on OK, you can see those magically disappear. I think it's great. You know, it's a really good piece of software. Yeah, there you go. Edwin made a good point. Okay, the new compiler enables you to use Sentry, which is basically the industry standard exception error handling system. Requires some manual setup, but works fantastic when done. Very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm probably a little behind the curve on that, so I'll need to find out. But like I say, we're coming back in January, and when we come back in January, we're going to look at some more of these kind of things to see what's going on. Right. So that's the first demo. The second demo, the second demo actually, because the first one was all about the desktop and all the rest of it. So, would you like to see another program? I thought that I would start by having this app, okay? And what this app does is something very, very cool. So let me just compile it for a second. Undo, because I don't want it to run it in debug mode, because weird stuff happens if I do that when I'm doing the webinar. But let's go to here and let's run this. And I think it's best if I start by just showing you what this app does. Mohammed Ben Amar says, hello from the Delphi world. Hello. Hi. I'm still here. I'm in the corner. Okay, so as you can see, this is a map. And I'm going to just turn off my QR code there. And this is, by default, this centers on on New York. So my friend Al will be very happy because he's based in the area. But this is using open layers for the mapping, but it could be Google Maps. It could be Big Maps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on a button here, and it's going to go away, and it should in a moment, unless it crashes. It's now showing you where the International Space Station is. And if I click on this button, every 10 seconds, it's going to update and show you where the International Space Station is going to. So right now, if you are in Fort Collins or possibly Boulder in Colorado, if you look out your window, if you could see it, if it was dark, it's not dark now, but if it was dark, you would actually see the International Space Station flying over the top of you, because this is the real-time track of the International Space Station. I told you there'd be a spacecraft involved, didn't I? This is the real thing. There are people up there chatting away, doing scientific experiments. And this really, really is tracking the International Space Station in a Delphi app. And it's in 10 lines of Delphi code. Shall I show you how it works? I think you do want to know, don't you? So the first part of this is getting the map up, okay? And I am actually using a third-party component for that, because we don't have some I'm getting a message by someone who's being very naughty and interrupting me let me just tell him to go away for a second. Yeah, so he's talking about some new features in Rad Studio. So we don't have a good mapping component in Rad Studio built in. So there are some third-party versions out there. This particular one is from TMS. And if I just go into the program and hit, and here, hit F11, and then go down to here, because there's a little bug in the way this works. This is the TMS FNC map. Okay, so you might ask yourself, well, what's that? Well, actually, weirdly enough, I don't have a QR code set up for TMS, so let me just do that now. 1 second. Should have had this ready with it, shouldn't I? I thought I was so good doing all the other QR codes. But if you go to that QR code, you can see there, this is the FNC map. So what's interesting about the FNC components, and there are other mapping components around as well, but this one I really like because it will do any type of mapping. But this one is cross-platform. And it's not just cross-platform to iOS, Android, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux currently. But it also will work on the TMS web core as well, which is very, very cool. But all it's doing is showing a map. Now, you can pick the types of options that you have for the mapping service. I can't, forgive me, this is not my own component, so I'm not entirely sure where it is, but I think there's a thing that says mapping service. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head where it is, but there's like a mapping service that you can pick, and I've chosen to use the let me see, I can't believe I can't find it. Markers, no, name options, polygons, lines. Yeah, I can't remember, but anyway, it supports. I'll show their webpage in a moment, but it supports a bunch of stuff. So very cool. You can start with it centered somewhere else. So if you wanted it to center on your local region or some other place, something like that, you can do that. But let's just go to here, and let's just look at what happens. So when you click on my little button there that says find the ISS, this line of code here happens. Okay. So what it does is it runs this routine and it turns off the button. There's a reason for that, which I'll explain in a moment. And it then checks to see if it's initialized. If it's not been initialized, then the first thing it does is zooms the map out. The reason is that the ISS is moving across the world. So in the time that I've spoken here, it's probably left the United States and actually probably some on somewhere else to, you know, the East Coast onwards out to another country, depending on the way it works, because it kind of, you know, circles around the world and spins all the way around it and crosses all things like the North Pole and the South Pole and some amazing things. So you want to start by zooming out so you can show the entire world. We have to track this because we're using Open Layer as our mapping service, which is that what they call it? No, I can't remember. Come back to it in a minute. We then make a REST request. Okay. Now, what is a REST request? Well, the REST request, I'm going to show you in a moment, but we go off and talk to the Open Layers API, which is a mapping service. And we say to it, can you tell us where the ISS is? And it says, yeah, sure. If it comes back and says, yes, that request succeeded, then it comes back, we convert that to a JSON object. There are better ways of doing this. You can convert the whole thing to a class or a record. And one of the things is ISS position. I then look at that property, the ISS position, and get the latitude and longitude. So these are the, as Daniel says, it is going around the world at 17,000 miles an hour. Isn't that cool? That is so cool. You've got to love, service property. That's what it is. Yeah. Service property. Oh yeah, wrong control. That's why I can't see it. Let's go here. Service property. There you go. Yes. Okay. So there are different types of maps that you can support. That was Haito. Thanks for that, Haito. Yeah. So it supports Azure Maps, Bing Maps, Google Maps, here, Leaflet, Mapbox, MapKit, Open Layers, and TomTom. All of those vary in what you get for free and what you don't get for free. Open Layers, which is the mapping service that I'm using, I'm just going to pull that up right now. Open Layers is this, openlayers.org, and it's a high-performance, quote, feature-packed library for all your mapping needs. Okay, and it's got a really cool API, which this is what the TMS component supports. Okay, can you turn features on the map on and off? Can you? Yes, you can. You can change it from the different types of maps as well. So I could have done a street map and show you exactly what street it was hovering over. How cool is that? Exactly where it is. Any open source map components? Raleigh, I don't know. It's a short answer. The TMS one's relatively cost effective. There are JavaScript ones, but I'm not sure about Delphi ones. You'll have to Google it. I didn't, in this webinar, I didn't look for free alternatives. Unfortunately, I just chose to do this demo the way I'm doing it. Thanks, Haito, for telling me it was the service property. And while it says very cool, yes, you haven't seen anything yet. You wait. So it goes off and it does that. Now, what it does is if it gets a successful response back from the ISS asking you where's your position, if it comes back and says 200, then it will try and convert those two numbers. Because they are floating point numbers, they will come back as something like 24.7777 and minus 94.665 or something crazy like that. And then it will, if that's successful, then what I do is I add a marker to the map. Now, I've got a little logo here, and I got that logo from, let's see which app it is. It's this one. I got that logo from FreePic, I think. Icons 8, actually. Yeah, Icons 8, which I think is also part of FreePic. And there's my little logo. So what it's doing is it's going and pointing at this particular graphic file and loading that graphic up. Okay. And I'm plonking it on the map. And it's scaled to be nice and small. I could have been a great big thing. You can draw polygons, you can draw circles, you can do all sorts of exciting things. And in fact, if I go over to TMS's mapping thing and pull this over so you can see it here, they do all sorts of crazy things like, you can put waypoints on, you can do route marking. You can load preloaded routes, or say you want to highlight something like some kind of boundary like that, nuclear explosion or eruption or something horrible like that. You can load up a file with that in. You can add these annotations on here. My demo is really Mickey Mouse in comparison. It's a cool demo, but in compared to what it can do. And you can use styling from HTML styling and things like that. You can add markers. You can pre-zoom it or not zoom it. Very, very comprehensive. So I just get that back and do that. Now, how do I get the address of the ISS? Well, the way that I did that was I used this service called Free APIs. And I'm just going to put the QR code up so you can see where it is. Free APIs, and it's freepublicapis.com. And it's very, very cool. There's every single kind of API you could ever imagine in there. And one of the cool ones they got, for example, is this one, which is a public IP address API. So it can pull up public IP address of your user if you wanted to display that to them. This is your out-facing IP address or something like that. And the other one, which I'm using, is, of course, the ISS current location. So how did I get this into Rad Studio? How did I make that happen? Well, the good news is there is a tool called the REST debugger. I'm going to pull it over here because you will not be able to see it. In there, this is a tool built in. So I went to Tools and then REST debugger. And you'll see in the ISS current location, there's this API thing here. So if I just click on copy, it says I've copied it to the clipboard. I go into here and I paste that in, okay? And then I want to get this back as JSON. So I can do that bit of code there that looks for those JSON values. So if I click on send request, it comes back, and these are the headers to say, yes, it worked, and whether it works or not. And here is the actual JSON packet that gets recovered. So this is what the API sends back. Yes, it was successful. And here is an array, which is the ISS position, okay, and the longitude and latitude, and the timestamp. Now, the timestamp is useful because if you really want to get super accurate and base something on where the ISS was at that time, you can use this timestamp and decode it to get the precise minute and second that the ISS sent that location over. Because I believe this is actually broadcast directly from the ISS, and then this API links into that, because the ISS does some weird stuff. Like, I don't know whether you know, but at one point there were people on the ISS that were using amateur radio and talking to other amateur radio enthusiasts around the world as they flew over them. It's the coolest thing ever. And they had these cool signs, Mike 75 November, hearing you 99, all those kind of things. You've heard it all before, but it's very, very good. ISS is one of those examples of the world coming together to do something very good for mankind. I think it's awesome, and I'm very pleased that this app does that. So there's the response that comes back. Okay, we get that back in here. How do we do that? Well, we use these components here. Okay, a REST request, a REST client, and REST response. And you think, oh, there's a lot of properties here. As you can see, there's a whole ton of properties down there, authenticator, API. But fear not, because the good news is you can actually go into here and click on this button, and it will create these components for you automatically to manipulate this API. Now, the REST debugger does a lot more than that. You can go to APIs that need parameters and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And get some very complicated APIs, like there's OAuth APIs that you might want to use and things like that. But you can still click on here, click on copy components, which is what I did, and then click on paste and paste them in here, and 99% of the work is done for you. This is why we call RAD Studio RAD, Rapid Application Development. I know, it's my job to talk through the benefits of the program, but I'm not kidding you. I wrote this app this morning, and I wrote this app this morning in between meetings and preparing for this webinar. That's how low effort it is to do some of these really cool things. Kel. Oh, I love it. Does it take time dilation into account? And I know you put a smiley face on there. The time dilation is because the fact that the ISS is not on the planet and it's going around at 17,000 miles an hour, there is a tiny difference in the time between that experienced by the people on the ISS and those experience it on the Earth. And they had some twins go up, there's astronauts, Americans, and they did a study where the astronaut on the ground, who's a identical twin brother, the astronaut on the Earth, in the ISS, he was up there for a year, I think, and they wanted to study the effects of weightlessness on people, on the human body, but also on things like time dilation. It was probably not long enough to show much of a difference, but remarkable stuff. The answer is, Kel, I have no idea whether it takes into account the time dilation, but it is very, very cool. So just to recap, I got my REST components in here. I got my FNC map, which I literally went to the palette and after I installed it and dropped it on. The only thing that I did differently in these settings here was I changed two things. One was I enabled local files to true. And the reason is I wanted to show that cool ISS symbol on there. And the second thing I did was chose the mapping service to be open layers. The reason is open layers is completely free. So I didn't want to have a Google, oh, there you go. Thank you very much, Daniel. Senator Mark Kelly, salute the senator for being a decent guy, one of life's heroes. Honestly, I've seen him interviewed, and he's a really great guy as well. And you just look at these people, you're crazy, you know, like the first moon landing. And I don't want to hear any nonsense about, oh, it didn't happen, or it's absolutely just, I'm not interested. If you can't accept, you know, science, then fair enough. But it happened, okay? And don't ever say it to Buzz Aldrin, because he'll knock your teeth out. But, you know, when they first landed on the moon, they did not know whether the spacecraft would sink all the way through. They weren't entirely sure. They had a good idea, but they weren't entirely sure whether the lunar lander would sink and be irretrievably lost. They had some devices to test whether the surface was solid, and they had some big wide feet to help it not sink all the way in, but they weren't 100% sure. And they weren't 100% sure that they could take off again and get back. And in fact, they only had seconds left of fuel to fly across the lunar surface, trying to find somewhere suitable to land. You've either got to be some of the bravest people on the planet, or you've got to be one of the most insane people on the planet, or both, to do that. But I take my hat off to these people, because people like Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly, you're brave to do that stuff. You're risking death. I mean, I know there's all sorts of people who risk death and injury, and bravery is something that you can't quantify. But you know bravery when you see it, and what they did, that was amazing. Anyway, so I digress, as usual. It's always my fault, isn't it? I'm always talking nonsense. Let me just go into here for a second. Right, so hold on. Yeah, the trouble I have here is it's okay. So this is using a browser component. That's how they do it. So I literally make that REST request. If it succeeds, then I go to the map and I add the marker. Now, a couple of other things about this. If I went to here and chose project options, which come up in a few seconds, I went to appearance, and I wanted it to look kind of pretty. So I choose the Windows 11 Impressive Dark, which is one of the themes that comes with Rad Studio now. And with Rad Studio 12, if you go into Tools and then get it Package Manager, and then you go down to Styles, and then Windows Impressive Dark, which I think is right down at the bottom here. Impressive Dark, yeah, there. So you can install those, but I just chose that one because it looked cool, because I wanted these buttons to look pretty, and I wanted the whole thing to look like it belonged. So let's just run it again. The other thing I did was I have a timer. The API, if you look at the API from the ISS current location, what they say is users are advised to put, I'm going to zoom that up so you can see it, are advised to poll the API no more than once every 5 seconds. And the reason for that is that they don't want the world to just, like, you know, murder the API. So they are saying, oh, we advise you not to do it more than every 5 seconds. Because of that, what I do, when you click that button and you go to track the ISS, it disables the button, so you can't click it again. And well, I'll just click that message that's up on the screen there. MadExec doesn't currently support 64 modern toolchain. Yes, that's being looked into, Ian, and hopefully it will then support the 64-bit modern. It then sets a flag to say, well, did we initialize it? No, we didn't. Okay, so we'll set it to true, and then we set that zoom level so it's zoomed out so you can see the whole world, and I'll show you that in a moment. It then executes the REST request, and then it enables a timer. And it's got lots of try except in here to stop things going wrong. The timer is this one here, and the timer is set to every 10 seconds. And when it triggers, the timer enables the button again, so you can click it one more time, and then it looks to see if the toggle switch, which is here, is set to on, I'm just going to click on there and say F11, and then we just show there. If the toggle switch is set to on and there's two captions, manual tracking is off and auto tracking is on. So when auto tracking is on, what it will then do is it will fire the track ISS button method again. It will disable the button again, and it will go off, and it will talk to the API every 10 seconds and update that position. The net result of that is, I'm going to close that one, we don't need that, is what we showed you earlier on. So let's just go and run that now. So there's my nice dark theme, so it looks pretty. In the top left there, you should see the button light up, find the ISS. There's my toggle that I set up. You'll notice that it will scale. So if I do that, it will scale up nicely. The reason is that I've got this button set to be aligned on the left. Okay, and if I just show you what I mean by that, there's the button. It's on a panel, so this is a T panel. There's the button. I've got it aligned to the left, but I'm aligning it with margins. So what that means is the top, bottom, left, and right margins are all set to 3. So it's got a nice, respectful, aesthetically pleasing, as my wife would say, gap on the left. Then the toggle has also got aligned with margins set to true. And that's got slightly different margins just because I wanted a gap on the left of 15 pixels across like that. But otherwise, it's rammed up against that button. So when the screen resizes, they automatically size into the right place, like this. So if I go back down there, you can see the button's in the right place. If I move it around and size it up this way, it's always going to be on the left of the form like that. Cool, huh? And now let's go and track it. So do it manually. First time through, it checks that flag and says, have we already done it? No, we haven't. After 10 seconds, that button will re-enable. So you saw it re-enable there. And if I click it again, it shows you the new location. I can zoom in. I'm using my control key on my wheel on my mouse. After 10 seconds, I can click it again. And if I click on auto, that now makes that timer click in. And when the timer triggers, I've got my hands off the keyboard. Bing, it will update automatically. So that's from the free APIs, the ISS location, and the map that we're using is from TNS, which is up on the screen now. Just watch that nicely drift over the coast of Africa, I think that is. No, South America, my apologies. There you go. So it's across the sea at the moment. Isn't that cool? I told you it'd be a cool demo. You're watching something in space, in real time, tracking, using Delphi in about 10 lines of code. How cool can you get? Don't tell me I don't do good demos, because I know this is a good one. It's one of my favorites. So there you go. So that's it, really. That's all I wanted to show you was just a few nice demos. But look at that. I mean, it's just insane, isn't it? Now this could be, although I'm tracking the ISS, this could be, your delivery. Let's say you're working for a company that's doing delivery components or something like that, or you're wanting to track, I don't know, where a parcel was delivered. I used this previously to track when employees were they clock in at one site and then they were delivery driver delivering to other sites in the same company. They wanted to track where the deliveries had got to so that they could show on the map that the guys had gone a route. I also used to work on some software that used to track nurses that would go and visit people in their homes, and so they could track the route of the nurses and say, oh, they're in the middle of the Welsh mountains and they're stuck in traffic or something like that, and that's why she's not got out to Mrs. Jenkins, or he's not got out to Mrs. Jenkins. I think we'll just leave that ticking away whilst we have a look at this. So here's a question from Ian. Does Embarcadero provide any support to third-party tool developers? We're having some trouble getting the free over-by internet components working on modern 64-bit C tool chain. Yes, that's Francois Piet, who works on those. And in fact, it is my job to actually liaise with the tech partners. So Ian, if you want to email me, I'll give you nurses. Nice. Yes, I've done all sorts of weird apps. I think, Rick, you're slightly worried me there. Rick says, nurses, nice. It's a slightly shady comment there. I'm sure he didn't mean it that way, but yes, we used to track all sorts of things. And in fact, I actually write an app that's an iOS app that is used by a bunch of visiting nurses in the United States. They go and take photos of documents, injuries, and wounds that are healing, and they use an app that I wrote in iOS to do that. So, joking aside about your nurses, it is cool that we do that. Just to go back to Ian Tuck, yes, we do give support. We actually have a tech partner program, and I manage that. I manage the MVPs, the most valuable professionals, but I also manage the tech partners as well. And ICS is run by Francois Piet, who is both a tech partner and an MVP, and I can reach out to him and find out what's going on. I should point out, he's a Delphi developer, and so it may be that it's not his primary area of expertise, but we will help with some of that, depending on who they are. We will help tech partners get to the point where they can actually compile for the modern 64-bit C++ toolchain. We have some expertise in-house, obviously, and we'll do what we can. Ian, I'm going to put my email address up on the screen again. I'm sure you know it by now anyway, but if you want to email me and remind me about ICS, then I'll make sure that I reach out to Francois. I'll make a note anyway, but reach out to them to overbite and get something going if possible. It's a Christmas period coming up, so people are busy doing various things. There's the old ISS just ticking away in the background. Isn't that fantastic? This is one of probably my most favorite demos. I've done some demos that are really quite fun, but this one probably is really my favorite, I think. Hilo says, really nice demo, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Look, it's nothing special. It's actually not difficult, ironically. If I go back and just remind you, if I go back into the code and show you, that's it. That's the entire program. And if I zoom out a bit, let me just do that. So you can see it all. That's all the code there is. And a lot of that is comments and try except. Finally, it's actually not difficult. So it's not a problem. So there you go. So Canute likes it. Lol. Yeah, I thought I was right about what you were thinking about there. Yeah, it's funny. Meanwhile, the ISS is just moving away in the background. Where they're headed next? Oh, cool. Well, they're going to go around the world. They're going to circumnavigate the world at this rate. I think if you zoom in enough to the tiles, it will show you some of the other places it's getting to. Look how far it's going in 10 seconds. It's crazy. It's like 500 miles or something. Insane. Walid says, please tell me about Rad Studio Patch 2. Just go on the blog, blogs.embarcadero.com, and look on it there. It'll explain to you about what Patch 2 contains. Most of Patch 2, if you're talking about 12.2, a lot of it's to do with some things that were missed off that are to do with Mac development. We resolved some header files that needed to be put there, and a couple of other things as well. But I can't remember off the top of my head, but the blog will explain all about it as well. Okay, so I really don't want to hide that thing there, but I'm going to do it anyway. Such a shame. There you go. So I hope you enjoyed that demo. It was one of my fun ones. Talk to you about desktops. Canute says 90 minutes around the world. Yeah, they have many sunrises and sunsets. Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? And at 17,000 miles an hour. you know, hats off to these guys and salute them because American style, because I'm American now. How I mean, I'm sure it's exciting to go up on the ISS, but that thing must make some noises and creaks and groans. And it's bad enough when you're in a house and it starts making weird noises. But when you know that outside the room that you're sleeping in, weightlessness, is instant death, painful death waiting as well, where you just get exposed to the atmosphere, you know, the lack of atmosphere is just crazy. I don't know how they do it, but you know, I'm sure they have lots of training. You know, I know they have lots of training. Watched it, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the webinar is still let me share my screen again and put it into a little window. Isn't it cool? It's just chugging away in the background. Da, 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 it's going across the world. Yeah, love it. Could you use the TMS FMX team map view to this? I think so. Peter Turtle, ex-colleague and friend of mine, still current friend, but ex-colleague. I haven't looked, Pete, to be honest, at what the FMX map view does. But if you've got the FNC components, this will definitely do it. But yeah, I'm sure you could do this because all that it does is it wants the position, which is a longitude and latitude. You could actually do it without any mapping components whatsoever. I've done it in the past by calling Google Maps with an API and showing a web page. But you have to have like SSL enabled and all those kind of things as well. So it is a little bit more difficult to do, but you can do it. I've done it in an app where you click on where's this employee actually, and it opens up and maps it. But with the ISS, you want to be adding markers like this all the time to track the route. It's got some very impressive routing. And I'm wondering if it's the application that I think we both know that you're talking about for this. If it is what I think it is, then I'd understand what you're looking at for routing. And I would suggest if you could swap to FNC, and it supports some very advanced routing, and the open layers has got great routing options as well. So I would definitely say that it's worth looking into. It's great. Hello, Zed. Zed Alahi, who is one of our MVPs, I think, as well. So excellent stuff. Hello, Zed. So that's it. Okay, well, that's kind of it. We've been an hour and a half. I know the first half an hour, much to someone's discussed, was me saying hi to everybody. I think you got a good demo out of it. We are back on Friday, and Friday is a special event. We're not really going to talk too much about Delphi Code. I'm going to have some special guests with me. I can't say all the names because some of them, have got things on because it's Christmas and got other things happening as well. But it should be exciting. I've got some really cool people that are visiting along. Look, where's it going now? Oh, it's still poodling along around the world. Look at that. See the rotation? Isn't that fantastic? I just love that. Bink. It's just the greatest demo ever. But on Friday, yes, it's going to be a festive spirit. You may see me for the first time in these series of webinars not wearing the Embarcadero top. I may be wearing some kind of Christmassy jumper or something like that. And we may have Christmas hats, or we may even, me and my guests, the ones that have got, maybe wearing Delphi helmets, because a few of us have got those helmets. But it's fun. It's a laugh. Nothing too serious. We will show some demos. We'll probably talk about our favorite tricks and tips and a few other bits and bobs as well, because some of these guys just want to show you what's going on because they're crazy like that. But it's again. And Daniel says, best wishes for Marco. Marco can too. Yes, Marco, get well soon. I'm sure he's not watching this because he seems so sick. I imagine he's got more important things to do than listen to me. But yeah, get well soon, Marco. Anyway, I think that's it from me now, and I will see you again next time. And the ISS will continue going around the world until at least this Friday, when you'll see us again at the normal time. Thanks for everyone joining, and thanks to Rick for enjoying it. Delphi on every desktop. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And every mobile phone, and some of the things we're going to talk about are probably on Friday will surprise you, where you will find Delphi, because we've got a few of our favorite things. Keith says, great live. Can you tell us if there are any plans of having web as a platform? There are 5 or 6 different options to get on the web at the moment. We haven't got anything we can share in terms of what you can do, but there's lots of third-party stuff. Pete says TTFN to you, mate, as well. Boyan says, thank you, and looking forward to talk to you. Yes, in January, Boyan, we're going to do some stuff together, and I'll get you to bring some of your nice clips along. Boyan's got some great stuff. MyToff software. Look it up. It's I didn't get a barcode ready for you, mate, but lots of interesting stuff coming up. Like I say, we stop after this Friday, and then a couple of weeks off, and then we'll start again on in January with all sorts of new topics, and some of them are quite in-depth and technical, and some of them are just fun, like the ISS thing, which is still gradually poodling way around the world, as you do. Looks like it's going around the coast of Africa. Yes, so it is. Isn't it amazing? Who knew? Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. And I'll see you again next time from me and the ISS and the free APIs and all the other toys. Look forward to seeing you next time